Things come and go in small country towns, don't they? Times change, people move on. In Kentucky, in New England, you might know it, just south of Armidale, the population ebbs and flows, but many things do stay the same. St Mark's Church has celebrated 90 years. The school is still going strong, as is the general store, but the sale sign there has gone up for the 9th time. Owners Rod and Deb McGrath have given it 10 years of their life, and they say it's time to move on. Jen Ingle popped in to find out what they'll miss most about life in a tiny community.
One thing I won't miss is that buzzer. Ding dong. Oh. What are you after today, mate? Just some milk or...?
Yeah, just milk, yeah.
Rod McGrath from Kentucky Store. The people in the community are probably the big things that we will miss, and being a part of that and seeing them grow up and their families change from school kids to young adults to families, and the inevitable passing occasionally. So
Tell me about the community of Kentucky. What do you like about it?
just the way it's very inclusive, and you get to know everyone's business and that, and we've certainly appreciate the farming community a lot more than when we moved up here. Just becoming involved with them and trying to help them and being almost the focal point of the village. There's some great people, really salt of the earth people around here. Yeah.
Rod, how many people live? What's the population of Kentucky?
Depending on how you define Kentucky, the village is probably 80 odd, but then you've got Kentucky South, you've got Wallen. For the purposes of the census, the greater area of Kentucky, you've probably got, I think the last census was 325, but that's sort of almost 20 by 20 by 20 k's.
Yeah. I would have thought this would be a pretty pokey little quiet place, but that ding-dong has gone quite regularly since I got here.
As I said, yeah, that's one thing we won't miss. People are surprised at how constant it can be here. You know, you have your quieter times when you can get done what you need to get done, and other times you spend a lot of time sort of serving people, and those that are up for a chat, people are always up for a chat and catching up on what's happening. And with this rain today, that'll be the focal point and the hopes for the next few days. So.
And I imagine the fire draws a few people in, a beautiful warm fire in a comfy lounge.
It certainly does. It's very comforting and welcome break, especially for travellers who come in a bit cold and tired, and then hang around because it's very cosy and sometimes too cosy.
10 years, so you'd be still considered a blow-in, really. What brought you to Kentucky in the first place?
We had family in the area. We brought our boys up for a break in the holidays, fell across the opportunity of the shop being available, went away, talked about it, and then thought, let's do something different. The boys are young enough, let's get out of the big smoke and just try something different, and haven't regretted that move at all.
And it is quite different. I mean, tell me the careers that you were both in before you headed to the New England.
Yes, I was in sales with a few large beverage companies in Sydney. Deb was one of the major banks, an accountant in one of their branches. And for all the driving around Sydney I did for 20 odd years, I now go back and think, how did I do that for that long? Now, every time we go back to Sydney, which isn't too often, but it just reinforces our decision to move out.
I'm sitting in the little Kentucky General Store, which is just south of Armidale off the New England Highway, and I suppose it's only 4 k's, but do you get, how much through traffic or visitor traffic would you get to this little village?
Surprising how much you do get. We've got large signs on the highway, and we still, 4 or 5 years they've been up, we still get people to say that I saw the sign and thought I'd pop in. I'd like to support the little guys. I always drove up the highway and said, one day I'm going to Kentucky to see what's there, and today was it. So we get there, and then we get other people who start off like that, but then are regular visitors on their trips up and down the highway, whether from Queensland down to Sydney, down to even Victoria, going back and forth and that. And then you have your local senior cits groups, your motorbike groups from Tamworth, Armidale, we've even Guyra, Glen Innes, Quirindi, we've had groups from there, and whether they be aged care homes or senior cits or the motorbike clubs. We've even had tour groups from Queanbeyan and Port Macquarie, and that. We've developed through word of mouth, particularly a great following through some of the groups.
The 10 years, I mean, we'll describe the store, I suppose, when you got here. It would have been a vastly different little community 10 years ago, I would imagine.
It certainly was. The store was just a basic little general store with a bit of takeaway food and a premises out the back that had seen many families through it. We've developed the Café side of things with a licence as well, and just expanded it to create a comfortable home for us out the back.
And I imagine living in the community and running a little shop like this, it sort of lends itself to really getting involved in community committees and all those sorts of things. I mean, what do you think your contribution's been apart from the store owners?
That's one of the joys over the years has been involvement in the community. We're integral in starting the Progress Association, but then we had plenty of locals come on board, and just to get involved with them and promote the village. And over the years, things like our markets has become a focal point for ex-residents to come back and catch up with each other.
Hey Rod, how you going?
Not too bad. Get much down your end?
About 18 mil.
How do you know when it's time to move on?
Well, our plan was always to get our 2 boys through school. That we achieved that last year when our youngest son finished his HSC and is now in at UNE doing a bit of science. So that was the game plan. We've been working towards that, so I do a bit of work off farm, so to speak, over the last few years, just preparing for that exit plan. But now that Ewan's finished, it's time for us to sort of, we've got the shop on the market, and we're just looking to give someone else the opportunity to have their lifestyle change. And I think, possibly someone out of Sydney that wants to change will do similar to us and come on.
Is that sad but exciting?
It is sad. As I said, we've seen families grow up and been part of their families, and kids go from primary school through to high school through to university and start their own families. And but now it's time for us to sort of go back to when we were before kids and have a new chapter. And then, as I say, everyone that's taken over the store has added their own take on it, and we joke that that's the so-and-so's wing and that's the so-and-so's wing, and everyone has done something different. So we'll certainly miss, as I said, the community and the friendship and the involvement, but there's plenty of opportunity for someone else to now come in and just expand and put their own take on that.